Astravant stepped onto the academy grounds with the quiet steps of someone used to moving across broken warfields. The morning sky above the Interstellar Academy was soft and blue. Nothing like the burning reds and blacks she had known on the Krillian front. Students rushed past her in streams, talking, laughing, calling out to each other as they headed to their classes. Their voices felt strange to her, almost too normal. She walked in silence, holding her small pack close to her chest. The school buildings were large and bright, covered in clean white metal and wide glass windows. Every door opened with a soft hiss. Every hallway smelled of new air and polished floors. Everything felt peaceful, almost unreal. For Astra, peaceful places were the hardest to understand. She had been away for too long and she had changed too much. She tried to keep her head down, but she could feel eyes turning toward her. Some students whispered as they passed. Some slowed their steps just to look at her face more closely. They knew her. Everyone knew her. Her name had been broadcast across every human sector. She was the commander who broke the Krillian siege on Vespergate, the human who led a fleet 3 times smaller than the enemy and still pushed them back. The voice that once echoed across the Warfront. But now she was silent. Astra did not return their stares. She kept walking. She reminded herself over and over that she was here as a student. Nothing more. The war was finished. Humanity had won. Her service was done. She should be able to live normally again. That was what she was told. That was what her superiors insisted on when they signed her release. But normal life felt harder than any mission. When she reached her first classroom, she paused outside the door. Her hand hovered over the panel and she told herself to breathe. This was not a briefing room. No one inside would expect orders or strategies. No alarms would sound. No holographic maps would appear. It was just a classroom. She tapped the panel and the door slid open. Inside, students were already settling in. Screens flickered to life at each desk. A few people looked up as she entered. She saw the moment they recognized her. Their eyes widened and their quiet conversations stopped. Astra felt the attention like a weight on her shoulders. She chose a seat near the back of the room, where she could see both exits. Habit. She placed her pack on the desk and folded her hands. The professor, an older man with thin silver glasses, glanced up from his notes. His eyebrows rose slightly when he saw her, but he did not speak. Astra appreciated that. She did not want attention, at least not here, when the class began. The professor talked about post-war reconstruction, about rebuilding colonies damaged in the war, about helping planets recover from years of conflict. Astra listened carefully. She knew every destroyed colony by heart. She had seen real-time scans of burning cities. She had memorized casualty numbers before she even reached the legal age required to vote. Hearing it spoken in a mild classroom tone felt strange and distant. She kept her eyes on her desk. She did not speak once. During a short break, a group of students approached her desk. They tried to look casual, but they were clearly nervous. One of them, a tall boy with dark hair, stepped forward. "Commander Vance," he asked softly. Astra did not react to the title, but her jaw tightened. She looked up at them. "It is just Astra now," she said. "Right, Astra." The boy nodded quickly. "We just wanted to say, it is an honor that you are in our class." "I mean, you saved." Astra raised a hand gently to stop him. She was not angry, just tired. "Please," she said. "I am here to study, like everyone else." The boy swallowed and nodded again. "Of course. Sorry." He stepped back, and the group returned to their seats, whispering to each other in low voices. Astra looked down. She wished she knew how to smile normally. She wished she knew how to say something kind, something simple and friendly, but the words did not come. They never did when she needed them. When class ended, she left quickly. Her next lecture hall was larger, almost like a small auditorium. As she entered, more heads turned. People stared, but no one spoke. She found another seat at the back. Her heartbeat sped up even though nothing was happening. Across the hall, a pair of students were pointing at her, whispering excitedly. She wished she could disappear. On the Warfront, she had never wanted to disappear. She had stood on the command deck during heavy fire. She had walked among frightened soldiers and spoken to them with steady confidence. She had given orders that changed the course of battles. Even when missiles exploded around her, she had never felt fear the way she felt it now. Crowded halls, loud voices, too many eyes, every sound felt too sharp. Every movement made her glance toward it, evaluating if it was a threat. Her body refused to relax. She felt herself slipping into old habits, scanning the room, noting escape routes. She did not want to think like a soldier anymore. The professor entered and began the lesson. Astra forced herself to listen. The room slowly filled with the soft hum of datapads and quiet notes. The atmosphere was calm, safe, completely harmless. She knew that. But her heartbeat did not slow. Halfway through the lecture, a message appeared on her pad. It was a simple text from an unknown student. Asterisk, if you ever want help catching up on assignments. I can help. Asterisk stared at it for a long moment. She did not know how they got her contact ID. She did not know what to answer. So she closed the message without replying. She felt bad immediately, but she did not know how to fix it. After class, Astra walked outside and sat alone on a bench under a tree. Leaves rustled above her in a soft breeze. She closed her eyes. No engines roaring. No alarms. No command shouted over comms. Just quiet air. But peace only made her feel more separate from everyone else. She heard footsteps nearby. She opened her eyes and saw a girl wearing academy blue, carrying a tablet and a stack of notes. The girl hesitated before speaking. Is this seat taken? She asked. Astra shook her head. The girl sat down, folding her hands nervously. I hope I am not bothering you. I just wanted to say welcome back. Astra looked at her in surprise. Back, well, you used to study here, right? Before the draft? The girl said with a small smile. So technically, this is your return. Astra nodded slowly. She had not thought of it that way. She only remembered leaving, not returning. I know everyone is probably making things awkward, the girl continued. But if you ever need a friend or someone to sit with in class, I am around. I am Mira, by the way. Astra studied her face. Mira did not look afraid. She did not look like she wanted something. She simply looked kind, warm, something Astra did not know how to handle. Thank you, Astra said softly. Mira smiled. Anytime. She stood and waved before leaving. Astra watched her go, feeling something unfamiliar, something gentle. She had not felt that in a long time. The next class was a group project session. Astra entered the room and immediately felt tension rise again. The teacher assigned groups, and Astra found herself paired with 3 other students, including the tall boy from earlier. They looked at her, waiting, expecting leadership, expecting direction. Astra sat down and looked at the assignment on the screen. She could command fleets. She could give orders that saved lives. But now, facing a simple classroom task, she felt her throat close. One of the students said carefully, how should we start? Astra opened her mouth. No sound came out. The others exchanged awkward glances. For the first time since the war ended, Astra felt truly helpless. She lowered her eyes and whispered, maybe one of you can lead this. The group froze, shocked. They expected a commander, a war hero, someone strong. But Astra was just a girl trying to remember how to be a student. They nodded slowly and took charge of the project. They tried to include her gently, asking small questions, checking to see if she was comfortable. Astra answered quietly, doing her best to help without drawing attention. By the time the session ended, her energy was drained. Not from combat, not from stress, but from trying to be part of normal life. As she left the building, the sun was beginning to set. The academy lights lit up the walkways in soft gold. Astra walked toward the dorms, feeling as if she had fought a long battle. She had dominated the Warfront. She had faced alien fleets, burning planets, and impossible odds. But here, in the calm hallways of a school, she found herself silent, unsure and lost. And deep inside, she hoped tomorrow would be easier. Astra Vance woke earlier than most students. Long before the academy lights shifted from night mode to morning brightness, she had always been a light sleeper, trained to wake at the smallest noise. Even now, in a quiet dorm room, with soft walls and no threat outside the door, her eyes opened at the faint hum of the building's systems powering up. She sat up slowly and looked around. Her room was small but clean. A single bed, a desk, a window that showed the faint blue glow of the sky beginning to brighten. It should have felt comforting, safe, but comfort did not come easily anymore. Astra swung her legs over the side of the bed and stood. She stretched carefully, feeling the usual stiffness in her shoulders. Years of armor plating, heavy gear, and long hours had left their mark. She dressed in the simple academy uniform, tying her hair back with practiced precision. Every movement felt automatic, familiar, almost like preparing for a mission. She wished it didn't feel that way. When she stepped into the hallway, the air was cool and quiet. A few students passed her with tired faces. Some noticed her and stared. Others looked away quickly, unsure if they should greet her or stay silent. Astra kept her eyes forward and walked toward the dining hall. Inside, the hall buzzed with morning voices. Students filled tables, chatting about assignments, weekend plans, club events, the normal noise of a normal life. Astra paused at the entrance, feeling out of place. She wasn't used to crowds, to casual noise, to rooms without tension. She picked up a tray and walked toward an empty table in the corner. She ate quietly, avoiding eye contact. Her mind drifted to yesterday, her first day back at the academy. She remembered the whispering students, the uneasy stares, her frozen reaction during the group project. She remembered Myra approaching her kindly, offering friendship without fear. Astra wondered if Mira would sit with her today, almost as if answering the thought. A familiar voice appeared behind her. "May I sit here?" Astra looked up and saw Mira holding a tray. The girl wore the same warm expression as yesterday. Not nervous, not intimidated. Just friendly. Astra nodded. "Yes." Mira sat down with a smile. "I didn't see you in the line. You came early again, right?" Astra shrugged softly. "I am used to early mornings. It feels normal. But you can sleep in sometimes, you know," Myra said lightly. "It won't explode." Astra blinked, unsure if it was a joke. When Mira grinned, Astra realized it was, and she gave a small, confused smile in return. Mira laughed. "See? You can smile. I knew it." Astra looked down, slightly embarrassed. "I do not smile often." "That's okay," Mira said. "You don't have to. I can smile for both of us." Astra studied her for a moment. Myra's energy was warm, bright, almost glowing. Astra wasn't used to people like her, but she liked being around her. It made the morning feel lighter. They finished breakfast together, talking about simple things: the weather dome, the new cafeteria robot, a strange bird that had landed on the roof. Astra didn't say much, but Mira filled the silence comfortably. When they headed to class, the halls felt less intimidating. Students still stared, but with Mira walking beside her, Astra felt less alone. Their first class was strategy analysis. The room was big, filled with holographic screens. Astra sat in her usual back seat. Mira sat beside her. When the professor started the lesson, he displayed a holographic map of a past battle. Not from Astra's Warfront, an older one, used for teaching. Still, Astra felt her shoulders tighten. Today, the professor said, "We examined the diplomatic collapse that led to the Rift Sector conflict." He continued speaking. But Astra's eyes stayed locked on the glowing red and blue markers. She remembered real battles, real explosions, real voices screaming through comm channels. Her breathing grew uneven, Mira noticed immediately. She leaned closer and whispered, "Astra, are you okay?" Astra forced herself to look away from the hologram. She nodded quickly, even though it wasn't true. "I am fine." But Myra didn't believe her. Astra could see it in her eyes. The professor suddenly turned to the class. Would anyone like to propose an alternate strategy that could have prevented escalation? Astra, perhaps you? The room went silent. Every head turned toward her. Astra froze. She stared at the professor, words stuck in her throat. Her chest tightened. She wanted to answer. She knew the answer. Strategies flooded her mind, clear and detailed, but her voice refused to come out. Seconds passed, then more. The professor's expression softened. It's all right. Someone else may answer. Quiet whispers filled the room. Astra lowered her eyes, feeling heat rise in her face. Embarrassment, shame. She wasn't used to that feeling. She had faced impossible odds, but she couldn't speak in a classroom. Mira leaned closer. You don't have to push yourself. It's okay, Astra nodded, but her hands trembled slightly. When class ended, Astra walked out quickly, needing air. She stepped outside into the open courtyard. The sun was bright and the air was fresh, but she still felt trapped. She sat on a bench near a fountain, breathing slowly. Students walked past, some glancing at her, some whispering to each other. She knew what they were saying. Asterisk, she can command fleets, but not answer a question. Asterisk, asterisk, how can a war hero be so quiet? Asterisk, asterisk, maybe she thinks she's too important for normal classes. Asterisk, Astra closed her eyes, trying to block out imagined voices. After a few minutes, she heard footsteps. Mira sat beside her without asking. Psst. I'm sorry, Astra said quietly. I froze. I did not mean to disappoint anyone. Mira shook her head. You didn't disappoint me. And you didn't disappoint the class. They don't understand what you've been through. You're adjusting. That takes time. Astra stared at the ground. I should be strong. I should be able to speak. Shra, Mira said softly. Strength looks different outside a battlefield. You're learning a new kind of strength. A quieter one. Astra didn't know how to respond. She had never thought of it like that. Before she could speak, sharp sound cut through the air. Loud crack like metal striking metal. Students gasped and turned toward the engineering building. Smoke curled from one of the workshop doors. What happened? Someone shouted. A teacher ran toward the smoke. Students started panicking. Backing away from the building, Astra stood immediately. Her body moved before her mind caught up. She scanned the area, assessing the situation, noting wind direction, structural stability, possible hazards. The old instincts snapped into place. There could be people inside, Mira said, voice rising in worry. Astra nodded. Stay back. She ran toward. The building smoke billowed out as she pushed open the door. Inside, sparks flew from a broken machine. A group of students were coughing, struggling to find their way out. Astra stepped forward confidently. Follow my voice, she said. Her voice was calm, steady, the voice she once used on the Warfront. Stay low. Move toward me. Do not run. The students obeyed instantly. Something about her tone cut through their panic. She guided them one by one toward the exit. When the last student reached safety, the teacher arrived and began securing the area. Astra stepped out of the smoke, wiping ash from her sleeve. The crowd watched in stunned silence. Mira ran to her. Are you hurt? Astra shook her head. No. The rescued students gathered around her nervously. One of them spoke, voice shaky. Thank you. I didn't know what to do. Astra nodded. It is all right. You are safe now. Murmur spread through the crowd. Not discomfort, but awe and relief. Astra felt their eyes on her again. But this time, it didn't feel heavy. It didn't feel uncomfortable. It felt respectful. Not because she was a hero, but because she helped. The teacher approached her with gratitude. You handled the situation perfectly. Your quick thinking prevented injuries. Astra didn't know what to say. She simply nodded. Mira walked beside her as they left the scene. See, this is who you are. Not just a commander. Not just a student. Someone who steps up when it matters. Astra looked at her with soft confusion. But I freeze in class. I struggle to speak, Samira said. That doesn't erase what you can do. It just means you're still healing. Astra thought about that as they walked to their next class. For the first time since returning to the academy, she felt a quiet warmth inside her chest. Not confidence. Not pride, something simpler. Hope. Their next class was a general communications course. Astra hesitated at the doorway, remembering her earlier embarrassment. Mira squeezed her arm gently. "I'll sit with you. We can handle this together." Astra took a breath and stepped inside. The day continued slowly. Astra still struggled in discussions. Her voice was still soft, still uncertain. But Mira stayed beside her, offering a small smile whenever Astra hesitated. By the time classes ended, Astra felt exhausted again, but not in the same way as yesterday. This time, she felt she had taken a small step forward as she walked back to the dorms. She realized something. She had survived battlefields filled with fire and chaos. But learning to live peacefully was its own kind of mission. A harder one. And maybe with Mira's help, she could succeed, tonight, for the first time. Astra felt that tomorrow might not be something to fear. It might even be something to look forward to. Astra woke the next morning feeling different from the day before. The memory of the workshop incident stayed in her mind. Not in a haunting way, but in a way that reminded her she was still capable of helping others. She had acted without hesitation, without fear. Her instincts had guided her, and she had saved people. That small victory warmed her, even as she tried not to think too much about it. Still, the worry of facing her classes again rested quietly at the edge of her thoughts. Speaking in class, answering questions, talking to new people, those were still battles. She hadn't learned how to win. She moved through her morning routine with calm precision, tying her hair back and straightening her uniform. When she stepped outside her room, she noticed students passing her with expressions different from before. Yesterday, they had stared at her with curiosity or nervous respect. Today, their expressions held something gentler. Not fear. Not caution. Gratitude. Some gave her small nods. Some whispered to each other with softer tones, pointing at her with admiration instead of unease. A few simply smiled. Astra wasn't sure how to respond. She gave a small nod back, trying to seem polite. Inside the dining hall, she saw Mira, already sitting at their usual spot. The girl waved at her quickly, as if excited to see her. Astra walked over and sat down. "Good morning," Mira said brightly. "Good morning," Astra answered. Mira leaned forward with a grin. "People are talking about what you did yesterday." Astra lowered her eyes to her tray. "I did what anyone should do in that situation." Mira shook her head. "No, you did what a trained leader does. You acted fast. You kept everyone safe. Not everyone could do that." Astra didn't know what to say to that. Compliments still felt strange. She wasn't used to kindness without expectation. But Mira didn't push. She simply moved the conversation toward the day's schedule. Small things, simple things. Astra listened quietly, grateful for the ease Mira brought to every morning. When they left the dining hall, Astra felt slightly more prepared for the day. Their first class was a field training simulation, nothing dangerous. Just basic skill tests for teamwork and communication. Astra tensed at the thought of being watched by classmates again. But Mira touched her arm lightly. "We'll do it together," she said. Astra nodded. The training area was wide and open, filled with various obstacle setups and holographic projectors. Students were grouped randomly. Astra and Mira ended up in a team of 4, along with 2 Boystorn. A quiet student with sharp eyes and Yalin. A friendly chatterbox who seemed excited about everything. The instructor explained the challenge. A mock rescue operation where they had to locate a series of holographic markers, representing injured civilians and bring them to safety, Mira whispered. "This sounds easy compared to real battles, right?" Astra gave a small smile. "Yes." But she stayed silent as the activity began. She didn't want to take over. She didn't want her past experience to overshadow the team. The others discussed a plan, pointing to the map projected in front of them. Astra listened, analyzing their ideas. Some parts were good. Others needed improvement. She felt her mind working automatically, calculating routes and timing. Torin looked at her. "Astra, Do you have any suggestions? She hesitated. Everyone waited. Her voice came out soft. If we go through the center path, the obstacles will slow us. But the left path is clear. We can split into pairs to cover more area. Torin nodded immediately. That makes sense, Yellen added. Yeah, let's do that. Astra, you've done this kind of thing before, right? Astra looked down. Something similar. They moved as pairs, Astra with Mira, Toron with Yallen. The simulation began, and obstacles formed around them in glowing blue shapes. Astra led Mira carefully, scanning the path with practiced eyes. Every now and then, Mira would ask quietly, "This way, or should we climb over this?" Astra answered calmly, guiding her through. They found the first marker quickly. Mira grinned as they carried it between them. "You're good at this," Mira said. Astra shook her head. "I had training. That doesn't make it any less impressive." Their teamwork worked surprisingly well. Many students nearby struggled with obstacles, but Astra guided Mira with ease. When they regrouped with Torin and Yallen, they moved as a complete team. Astra tried to stay in the back, letting the others take the lead, but she stepped in only when necessary. By the end of the simulation, their group finished first. The instructor looked impressed. Excellent coordination, especially smooth navigation by Astra. Astra felt attention shift toward her again. She lowered her head, unsure how to handle praise. Mira nudged her gently. "Good job," Astra nodded, still unsure. After the simulation, they headed to their next class, History of Interstellar Diplomacy. It was held in a small lecture hall, not as crowded as the big auditoriums, but still enough to make Astra sit near the back again. The professor spoke in a calm tone, discussing old treaties and alliances. Astra listened carefully, doing her best to focus. She didn't like speaking in indoor spaces filled with people, but she took notes quietly. Halfway through the lecture, a student raised their hand and asked a question about wartime communication methods. The professor answered. But several heads turned toward Astra. She felt eyes on her, watching, expecting. Her hands tightened around her. Pen Myra noticed and leaned closer. "Ignore them," she whispered. "You're not required to talk." Astra closed her eyes for a moment and breathed slowly. She reminded herself she was safe. This wasn't the Warfront. She wasn't required to command anyone. She relaxed slightly. When class ended, they walked outside again. The sun was warm on the courtyard pavement. Astra felt calmer, though tired from staying alert. Myra walked beside her. "You handled everything really well today," Astra blinked. "I did not do much. You did way more than you think." Astra didn't argue, but she didn't fully believe it either. Their next event was a small campus tour, organized for new students. Astra didn't need the tour, but Mira convinced her to come along. "It'll help you learn the new changes," Mira had said, so Astra joined. The group walked through different sections of the academy: the science wing, the engineering labs, the art sector. Astra stayed quiet, listening to the guide explain everything. She noticed details easily: safety exits, blind corners, structural weaknesses, old soldier habits. She tried to ignore them. During the tour, Mira asked her questions about simple things: favorite food, favorite subject, favorite planet. Astra struggled to answer. "I do not know," she said often. "That's okay," Mira replied. "You can figure it out now. You have time." Time. Astra hadn't had time in years. She had lived day by day, mission by mission, never looking ahead. Having time felt almost frightening, but also freeing. When the tour ended, Myra asked, "Do you want to sit outside for a while?" Astra nodded. They found a quiet spot near a large tree. Students passed in the distance, but the area was peaceful. Mira leaned back on the grass. "You know, I think people are starting to see the real you. Not the war hero. Just Astra." Astra sat with her knees drawn close. "I do not know who that is." Mira looked at her gently. "Then you can discover it. Little by little, no rush." Astra stared at the leaves above them, the branches moving softly in the wind. She remembered nights under damaged steel roofs, the distant sound of battles echoing in her ears. She remembered the weight of responsibility, the voices calling her commander. Now she heard birds. Students laughing. Soft wind. It felt unreal. Later they headed to an afternoon seminar. The topic was leadership in non-military situations. Astra tensed immediately at the word leadership, but Mira nudged her. I want to hear what they say. Maybe it'll help you. The seminar had a small group of 12 students sitting in a circle. The instructor encouraged open discussion. One student said, "Leadership doesn't always mean giving orders," another added. "Sometimes it means supporting others when they're scared." Mira glanced at Astra. Meaningfully, Astra looked down when the instructor asked the group to share an example of leadership they admired. Many students spoke about historical figures or famous explorers. Then Torin, who was in their simulation group earlier, raised his hand. "I want to talk about what happened in the workshop yesterday," said. Astra stiffened. Turan continued. "Someone acted quickly and stayed calm. They rescued everyone inside without panicking. That's leadership. Real leadership." The instructor smiled. "A good example. Who was it?" Torin looked directly at Astra. Her. Several heads turned toward Astra again, but the looks weren't heavy or overwhelming. They were respectful, admiring. Myra whispered softly, "See? You inspired someone." Astra's heart beat painfully once. She didn't know how to respond. She felt warm embarrassment on her face, but also something stronger, something she hadn't felt in a long time. Belonging, the instructor nodded toward her. "Thank you for your courage, Astra." Astra managed a small nod. Her voice didn't come, but it didn't need to. After the seminar, she and Mira walked back toward the dorms. The sky had begun to change into evening colors, soft pink and deep gold. Mira walked with her hands behind her head. "You did great today." Astra shook her head. "I did not speak much, but you were there. You tried, and you've helped people. That means something." Astra looked at her quietly. "Why do you care so much?" Mira smiled. "Because you're worth caring about." Astra felt her chest tighten again, but not with fear. Something warmer. Something gentle. Walking toward her dorm, Astra realized something important. She could face enemies. She could face danger, but learning to face kindness. That was a new challenge, and she was ready to continue. Tomorrow, she would try again, step by step, slowly becoming Astronaut the commander. Not the hero, just Astra. And for the first time in a long time, that felt enough. Astra walked through the long hallway of the academy with slow steps, her fingers brushing lightly against the smooth metal walls. Every step she took echoed softly, mixing with distant voices of other students. She tried to keep her eyes forward, but even without looking, she felt the quiet stares. She had become used to them, but that did not make them easier. The mock diplomacy simulation was starting soon, and her class had been preparing for it for weeks. But Astra never expected she would be chosen as a representative to speak. She thought she would simply help with planning quietly in the background. Yet her group members had insisted, saying that her experience gave her insight others did not have. They believed in her more than she believed in herself. As she walked, she tried to steady her breathing. The auditorium for the simulation was big, far larger than any space she felt comfortable in. She could face an enemy fleet without blinking, but a room of students, teachers, and observers watching her speak made her heart pound. She reached the door to the preparation room, paused, and let out a slow breath. Inside, her group members were all ready. Waiting, Mara, a friendly girl with dark hair tied into a neat braid, waved her over. "Astra, there you are," Mara said softly. "We were just checking our notes. Are you okay?" Astra nodded, even though she was not sure if she truly was. "I am fine. Just thinking," she replied in her usual calm voice. Taryn, a tall boy who always tried to lighten the mood, smiled. "You will do great. Just remember, no one is shooting at us here. That alone makes this easier than anything you've done before." Astra almost smiled. Taryn always tried to make things feel lighter. She appreciated that, even if she did not always know how to respond. Her group gathered around the table. discussing the final points of their strategy. The simulation required students to act as representatives from different human colonies and allied species, negotiating a shared agreement. Astra had been assigned to represent the outer frontier colonies, where she had grown up before joining the military. She understood their struggles well, but speaking about them in front of so many people felt overwhelming. The instructor entered to check on them. "Everyone ready? We will begin in 10 minutes, she said warmly. Her eyes lingered on Astra for a moment, full of encouragement. Astra straightened slightly. "Yes, we are ready." The instructor nodded and left the room. Mara leaned closer to Astra. "You do not have to be perfect. Just be honest. You know these issues better than any of us, and we are here with you." Astra looked at her group. They were nervous, yes, but also excited. They wanted to do well. They trusted her. She wished she could trust herself the same way. The time passed quickly, and soon they were walking toward the main auditorium. The doors opened slowly, revealing the huge room full of students and professors, sitting in rows, waiting for the simulation to begin. Astra's chest felt tight, but she walked forward with steady steps. Her training kept her movements controlled. Even when her thoughts were tangled, her group took their seats on the stage, each preparing to speak when their turn came. Astra sat in the middle, her back straight, her hands folded neatly in her lap. The simulation began with introductions from the moderators. Then one group after another presented their opening statements, discussing resources, border security, trade, and cooperation. Astra listened carefully. She understood everything being said, but her mind kept drifting to the moment she would need to stand up and speak. She rehearsed her words silently, but each time, they felt tangled. When her group's turn arrived, Mara stood first, giving a strong introduction. Terran followed with an explanation of economic concerns. Then it was Astra's moment. Mara gently touched her arm as she stood. "You can do this," she whispered. Astra rose slowly, feeling the eyes of hundreds settle on her. Her heart pounded so loudly she thought others might hear it. She stepped to the podium, hands gripping the edges. Her throat felt tight, and for a moment no words came. The silence stretched, heavy and uncomfortable. People shifted in their seats. A few whispered. Astra's mind raced. She tried to speak, but her voice disappeared. Then she felt a soft pressure on her back. Mara's hand. Steady and grounding, Astra closed her eyes for a second, took a slow breath, and lifted her head. Her voice came out soft, almost fragile, but clear. "The outer frontier colonies have always lived far from the protection of the core worlds. They see danger long before help arrives. I know this because I grew up there. I saw families working hard to survive, building their homes with hope even in harsh places." Her voice steadied a little. She continued, still speaking quietly but with purpose. "During the war, these colonies suffered heavy losses. They sent people to fight even when they had little to spare. They believed in humanity's future, even when they stood on the edge of danger. What they want now is not special treatment. They want a chance to rebuild, to feel included, and to know that the sacrifices they made were not forgotten." Her eyes slowly scanned the audience, not with the confidence of a soldier, but with something softer honesty. Cooperation is not just a political task. It is a human one. If we want peace to last, we must remember that every colony, every world, and every person matters. We survive because we stood together. We will grow because we choose to continue standing together. When Astra finished, she lowered her gaze, unsure of how people would react. Her hands were shaking slightly, but then she heard it quiet at first, then stronger. Applause. Not the loud cheering she had once heard on war broadcasts. Not the heavy clapping of soldiers celebrating victory. This was something gentler, warmer. It felt real. Astra returned to her seat. Mara smiled proudly at her, and Terran whispered, "Told you. You did great." Astra felt a soft warmth spread through her chest. She had spoken not like a commander giving orders, but like a person sharing truth. And the auditorium had listened. The simulation continued, and Astra, answered a few questions when needed. She still felt nervous each time she spoke, but the worst part was behind her. She had taken the step she feared most. When the event ended, the groups gathered outside the auditorium. Students approached Astra, thanking her for her speech. Some said they had family in the outer colonies and appreciated her words. Others simply said she inspired them. Astra listened quietly, still unsure how to respond to praise, but she felt grateful as the crowd slowly dispersed. Her group stayed beside her. "You really did it," Mara said softly. Astra nodded. "I had help. We all helped each other," Terran added with a grin. They walked together toward the courtyard. The sky outside was a soft orange, touched by the setting sun. Students gathered in small groups, chatting excitedly about the day. Astra felt lighter than she had in a long time. The war had shaped her, but it did not have to define every moment of her future. She was learning slowly but steadily that she could belong here too. Her voice, once loud across battlefields, had found a new place. It did not need to command fleets. It only needed to be true. And for the first time, she believed that was enough. She walked with her friends into the warm evening, sound of their laughter mixing with the gentle breeze. None of them were heroes or legends in that moment. They were simply students, sharing a quiet victory of their own. Astra looked toward the horizon, where the sky shifted into deeper colors. She felt calm, peaceful even. This was another kind of battlefield, but also another kind of home. Astra walked out into the courtyard, the morning after the simulation results were announced. The sun was soft and warm, spreading a gentle light across the academy grounds. Students were already moving around, talking about the event, discussing who spoke well, who surprised them, and which groups worked best together. Her own group had received high praise. But Astra did not think of rankings or scores as she moved through the courtyard. Instead, she thought of the moment she had spoken in the auditorium, the moment she had feared for so long. She remembered her voice shaking at first, then slowly becoming steady. She remembered the faces watching her, not with judgment but with understanding. She felt different now. Not changed completely, but changed enough. She took a seat on a low stone bench beside a tall tree. The leaves rustled softly in the breeze, and Astra felt a quiet peace settle in her chest. She had not felt peace like this since before the war. A few minutes later, Mara and Terran came running toward her, waving excitedly. "Astra." "There you are," Mara said, breathless. "We were looking for you." Terran grinned widely. "We have good news." "No great news. Actually, maybe the best news." Astra raised an eyebrow slightly. "What happened?" Mara laughed and sat beside her. "The instructors want us to present our project again. Not as part of the simulation, but as an example for the whole academy. They said your speech was one of the strongest moments they have seen this year." Astra blinked, unsure how to respond. "They want us to present again?" "Yes," Terran said. "In front of the entire academy staff, and maybe even a few guests from the council." Astra's heart sped up a little, but not with fear, not like before. This time it felt different. It felt like possibility. "I see," she murmured. Mara nudged her gently. "This time you will not be alone. And you've already proved you can speak. You can do it again." Astra looked at her friends and felt a soft warmth rise in her chest. She nodded. "I will try." They spent the rest of the day preparing, going over their notes, and practicing their parts. The instructors were pleased with their work and helped them refine their points. At first, Astra spoke quietly, but each time she repeated her lines, her voice grew stronger, clearer, more confident. By evening, she felt ready, or as ready as she could be. The next morning, the large hall of learning was filled with teachers, council representatives, and students. It was larger than the auditorium from before, with high ceilings and glowing panels that cast soft light across the room. Astra entered with her group, her steps steady. Her heart raced, but she breathed slowly, keeping her mind calm. She remembered everything she had learned in the war, how to steady her breath, how to focus, how to stand strong. But this calm was different from Battlefield.com. It was not born from survival. It was born from growth. Her group took their place at the front of the hall. The murmurs quieted as the lead instructor stepped forward to introduce them. Today, the instructor said warmly, we present a group whose work stood out not only for its clarity and depth, but for its honesty. Their approach to understanding post-war cooperation is something we can all learn from. The instructor's gaze settled on Astra for a moment. Full of pride, please welcome Group 7. The hall filled with applause. Mara began the presentation again, speaking with confidence. Taran followed, adding his usual mix of logic and light humor. Then it was Astra's turn. She stepped to the front. The room felt enormous. Hundreds of eyes were on her, but she did not freeze this time. She did not forget her words. She knew what she wanted to say. She took a gentle breath and began. Her voice came out calm, clear, steady. The outer frontier colonies have long lived with risk and hope, side by side, she said. During the war, they gave everything they had to protect the worlds beyond their reach. Their sacrifices helped build the peace we have today. Now they ask for understanding and cooperation, not because they are weak, but because they have carried heavy burdens for a long time. She paused, letting her words settle. We often think of war as something solved with weapons or strategy, but peace is different. Peace is built with trust, with patience, with shared respect. Peace is slower, softer, but it is no less important. She met the eyes of the council representatives sitting in the front row. I learned many things on the battlefield, but one lesson stays with me always. Humanity does not survive because of its strength. Humanity survives because we lift each other up. When one colony suffers, all colonies feel it. When one world grows stronger, the whole of humanity grows with it. Her voice deepened slightly with emotion. If we want peace to last, we must stand together not just as soldiers or leaders, but as people. People who choose cooperation instead of fear, people who choose to listen, people who choose to care. She let her hands fall gently to her sides. That is how we build a future worth living in. The hall fell silent for a heartbeat. Then applause rose, stronger than before. Louder, fuller. It echoed across the hall like a warm wave. Astra felt heat rise in her chest. Not fear, but pride, a soft, humble pride. Her group members stepped beside her, smiling brightly. They bowed together, then stepped back as the applause continued. After the event ended, instructors and council members approached them. Many congratulated Mara and Taran on their strong presentation, but many more approached Astra. One council member, an older woman with silver hair and sharp eyes, shook Astra's hand firmly. Your words were wise beyond your years, she said. You have seen much, and yet you speak with a gentleness our galaxy badly needs. I hope you continue using your voice. Astra nodded quietly. Thank you. Another representative offered a warm smile. If you ever consider applying for the Interstellar Peace Program, we would welcome your perspective. Astra blinked in surprise. She had not thought so far ahead. She was still learning how to live a normal life. But the idea filled her with a new kind of hope as the hall slowly emptied. Astra found herself standing with Mara and Taran near the large windows overlooking the academy grounds. The late afternoon light spilled through the glass, painting the floor in soft gold. Mara nudged Astra's shoulder lightly. You know, you could really change things one day. Not with command ranks or battle strategies, but with this, she gestured gently to Astra's chest, your heart. Taran nodded. You led fleets in the war? Now, you can lead people in peace. That is even harder, but you are already doing it. Astra looked out the window, watching the trees sway in the wind. She thought of the battles she had fought, the soldiers she had commanded, the losses she carried. She thought of the quiet halls of the academy, the nervousness that once froze her voice, the friends who had stood beside her. She had survived a war, but more importantly, she had learned how to live again. I do not know what my future will be, Astra said softly, but I want to help. I want to build something better, even if it is slow, even if it is small. Mara smiled. That is more than enough. They walked out of the hall together, stepping into the cool evening air. The sky was washed with soft colors, pink, orange, and a gentle purple blending at the edges. Students passed them, some waving, some offering warm smiles. Astra felt a quiet comfort in those small gestures. They did not see her only as a war hero anymore. They saw her as a person, a student, a friend. As they walked across the courtyard, Astra looked up at the sky. Somewhere out there were the stars she once fought beneath. Somewhere out there were colonies rebuilding, families healing, hopeful beginnings rising. She had dominated the Warfront. She had faced fire and darkness. But here, in the peaceful halls of her school, she had faced something harder, finding her voice again, and she had found it. Astra breathed in the evening air. Feeling calm and steady, she was ready for whatever came next.